Hello, Hartford.
Hey.
How's everybody doing today? My voice is a little thrashed from telling stories at my table, but we'll do the best that we can.
He's promised us new stories.
New stories.
What you heard at the table is old stuff. All right. Welcome again. Thank you for coming all the way to Connecticut for the second time.
Oh, no problem. That's right. I was here in 2016, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
CT HorrorFest number 3.
When we were a little baby place. Now
That's
we're
right, a little
the big
Danbury,
place.
Connecticut.
Yes.
Connecticut.
So I'm just going to ask a couple questions, and we'll let it go out to the crowd because that's what they're here for. So just as an idea, so you started acting at a very young age, of course. Were you in the high school plays? Were you, hey, look at me, the class clown? How did we get there?
I did what, I started out very young, just doing school plays and stuff like that. I mean, I might as well preface this by saying I've written a book, ladies and gentlemen, looking for a publisher right now. It's called Being Billy, The Making of Gremlins. And it is going to tell you the emotional journey starting from landing the role, the final audition, all the way through the shooting of the movie, the terror and doubts we had about whether or not it was going to be successful, all the way up to, and the book ends with the triumphant worldwide smash success of the movie and the franchise you all now know and love. But certainly Phoebe and I had absolutely no idea that it was going to turn out the way that it did. But in the book, the reason why I'm even mentioning this is that it does give a kind of brief summary of how I got started. And I really was, to a certain extent, I think the classic kid from a divorced family who didn't feel like he was getting enough attention, and so he wanted more attention. So since he wasn't getting it from, dad and mom, he decided to just get it from wherever he could get it from. So when he saw opportunities to do things like shows or whatever, or plays, and he got applause, that kind of filled in for some of the attention that I really think that's subconsciously what was going on. So like I did, really silly stuff when I was, in first and second and third grade. I remember I played the Queen in this original play we did called The Cream Puff Panic. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember I was a big Monty Python fan, so I got to do my entire the part to get to do it like this. I was the Queen, and I was getting to this. Off with your head,
Probably had
I'm like
a higher
9.
voice then.
Yeah. Oh, yes. But I still was doing stuff like that, and then around 9th, 10th, 11th grade, I did what I call the holy trinity of 70s musicals: Grease, Godspell, and Pippin.
Nice.
And if you're from the 70s, you remember all of those really well. I was Danny Zuko in Grease, I was Pippin in Pippin, and I was Jesus in Godspell. And as I turned to my mom and said afterwards, I guess you could call that typecasting. And she was like, you get a hold of yourself, young man. Because I was pretty full of myself getting all these leads and things. But of course I was going up against terrible competition.
Okay.
The competition, I was just beating out people who just couldn't sing at all, you know what I mean? And my high school was very weird because I went to a place called Collegiate School in Manhattan. Had about 150 kids in the high school, and amongst them, when I was in 9th grade, also in my class was Billy Wirth, who later would be in the Lost Boys, David Duchovny, who was in the X-Files, John F. Kennedy Jr., and Jason Begay of Chicago Fire, or Chicago something.
Yeah.
Chicago something where he's in a uniform and he sounds very authoritative. You get down there and take care of that immediately. And he does that kind of a role. And he does it very well. Yeah. He also dated my sister, which was weird.
Oh.
So that's always interesting when that kind of happens. Yeah. And my sister did actually go on one date in 8th grade with John F. Kennedy Jr. Ooh. And they went to get pizza, and she was like, it was very weird getting pizza with 3 Secret Service agents.
That's funny.
So yeah, so that was a very weird kind of like Manhattan upbringing. So like when I got these parts, I was beating out like 10 or 12 other people. There was not really a whole lot of competition.
Okay.
So what started to happen around 1980, 79, 80, where I'm about 15, 16 years old, I'm born in 64, is that if you think about this 50s and 60s, right? 50s and 60s had a lot of teen movies, right? James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause. 60s, Beach Blanket Bingo, right? You know, with Frankie and Annette.
Yes.
The 70s had like no teen movies.
Nope.
It had teen TV, right? It had like the Hardy Boys, had Nancy Drew. There was a show called Family, which had Christy McNichol. She was like a big kind of teen person. There's literally one teen actor in the 70s. Robbie Benson was basically it. Mm-hmm. And I think Hollywood was sort of like, what happened to the teen movie? We had the teen movie. You had teen movies in the 40s, right? With Mickey Rooney's Andy Hardy. You always had teen movies. And then in the 70s, they went away. So starting around 1979, they were like, we should bring back, you know, they always go back to genres and go, we should bring back the teen movie.
Yes.
So the first movie that I remember was called Over the Edge, and that's where they found a young, inexperienced, unknown guy named Matt Dillon, right? He was literally wandering the halls of Mamaroneck High School, cutting class, smoking Marlboros, and he was 14 years old. Wearing a white T-shirt. They were like, this is exactly who we want.
Lift.
Because he's actually, you know, sort of like a little thuggy, a little, you know, a little bit thuggy around the edges.
Yeah.
Like James Dean was sort of like a little thuggy around the edges. It was just, he had like an edge to him, you know what I mean? He was like, looks like he'd give you the middle finger if you just looked at him the wrong way. There was Over the Edge, and then you started to see that the Little Darlings, again with Matt Dillon. My Bodyguard, again with Matt Dillon. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The Outsiders, Matt Dillon. So you had this sort of the Matt Dillon wave of stuff, and they started getting successful. Now, I went up for the Outsiders for one of the Soches. I didn't get it, obviously. I'm not in the film, as you are well aware. But that kind of thing started to happen, and I started to see casting directors come to my school looking for really the kind of preppy kid that my school specialized in.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was always in a jacket and tie in class all the time. We were sort of exactly around 1980 what they were sort of looking for. Mm-hmm. Very preppy kids.
Now, was that a uniform? Did you?
Yeah, it was a school uniform.
Yeah, okay.
If you didn't have a jacket and tie, you could get away with wearing a turtleneck, but that was frowned upon, and you got a very Lord of the Flies type response from the kids if you were wearing turtlenecks. Like, oh, he's a turtleneck kid. He's one of those.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very sort of class-oriented. It was not good. So anyway, this casting director comes to my lunchroom, and the drama teacher apparently had been asked, like, who do you think is any good and that I should look at, and who you think would be worthwhile. She was casting a movie called No Small Affair. Her name is Juliet Taylor, and I didn't know it at the time, but she's a New York legend, one of the great casting directors ever. She cast movies like Kramer versus Kramer, all of Woody Allen's movies, Great Gatsby, Milos Forman's movie Ragtime. These are all 70s, 80s movies, I'm telling you. A lot of really good films. Worked with all of the great directors. So she came in, and they were doing this movie called No Small Affair with Martin Ritt. And she wanted, that's the director, she wanted me to come in and read. So I was like, okay. So I went in and read, and she took my Polaroid and put it on like a piece of cardboard with my vital statistics and put it in her, this is all pre-internet, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I put it in a file cabinet. And so I went up for it, and I lost out the movie to a young actor, unknown actor named Matthew Broderick.
Oh.
He starred opposite Sally Field, and they were about 4 or 5 weeks into shooting when Martin Ritt, the director, had a heart attack. And they shut down the production of the movie. The movie never came out. It got remade in 1985 with Demi Moore and John Cryer, and you can rent that now with a different director at your local Blockbuster. Oh wait, it's not 2001 anymore. It's not 1999 anymore.
You can stream it, maybe.
You can stream it now. So that got me in her file cabinet. So it's about a year later. I'm up in Scarsdale. I'm dating this girl, and we're lying on bed together, hanging out, listening to Dan Fogelberg records, just to give you an idea. That's 1981, March of 1981. I believe we were listening to Leader of the Band, that song, just to take you all the way back there for all you 80s music fans. And the phone rang, and it was Juliet Taylor's assistant, Paula Harold, saying, we'd like to have you come in for a movie. I was like, how did you find me at my girlfriend's house up in Scarsdale? First of all, obviously they called my mom, and my mom gave them the number and everything like that. So the movie I went up for was a movie that did get made with John Cassavetes, Jenna Rollins, Susan Sarandon, and Molly Ringwald, called Tempest, which was a update of William Shakespeare's The Tempest. And so I went in, and the first person that I read with was this gorgeous young woman. It looked so familiar to me. I couldn't place it, but I'm sure I saw her on the cover of something like 17. Her name was Phoebe Cates. So I read with Phoebe Cates for Tempest, and I just thought she was the most breathtaking creature I had ever seen, ever. She was impossible. And and by the way, Susan Sarandon was in the room too. And she was wearing a danskin leotard. I can see it to this day. And she had, what do you call those, leg warmers? She had just come from some dance class or something like that. So I had Phoebe Cates and Susan Sarandon, you know, and Susan Sarandon's décolletage, as they would say, you know, in front of me at 17. I'm surprised that Paul Mazursky brought me back multiple times so that I could even speak with all the female pulchritude that was jammed into that room. It's just ridiculous. So I came super, super close to that. Again, long story short, just to wrap it up. And finally, I didn't get it. And they gave it to Sam Robards, who is Jason Robards and Lauren Bacall's son. And eventually played my brother in a TV movie I did, and is an absolutely awesome guy. You can also see him in Steven Spielberg's AI movie. He plays, I think, the dad in that. And she called me up because I didn't have an agent. I didn't even know what an agent was. She called me up and she said, you didn't get it. And this is like after 6 weeks and 5 callbacks. And I was like so crushed because I love John Cassavetes so much, and from The Dirty Dozen and everybody else in the movie. And Raul Julia was in it too, the late, great Raul Julia. And I was so crushed on the phone. And she said, you know, I really think all you need is more auditions. Like more opportunities. And I said, well, how do I do that? Because I didn't know. I was 17. I had no one in my family who was an actor. She said, well, you need an agent. And I said, well, what's an agent? She said, well, that's someone who gets you auditions. I said, well, how do I get one? And she said, well, most people, it takes a long time for them. But is your mom around? And I said, yeah. She said, could you put her on the phone? And I said, yeah. And so my mom comes in, and my mom, this is all I ever heard from her. My mom goes, hello? Yes? Really? Yes, I see. Wow. Well, no, I was not aware of that. Yes. Well, yes, he does. Okay. She hands me the phone, and she goes, you have 1 year. Handed me the phone, and I walked away. And I get on the phone and go, hello, and she goes, Zach, take a pencil out and some paper. I'm going to write down some names for you. She wrote down the 3 top agents in Manhattan, told me to go visit all of them, and pick the one that I wanted.
Ooh, nice.
And I was like, what? Even now, telling the story right now, I can't believe that happened. I cannot believe that happened. But it happened. And I went and I met a woman named Susan Smith, who was part of an agency named Smith Friedman, started sending me out on auditions, got my first job in 30 days on sort of a Showtime after-school special, got a part on a soap opera, Another World, got ABC after-school special where I not only booked it, but got the clap on the ABC after-school special. It's called A Very Delicate Matter.
Oh.
A VD, Very Delicate Matter. I got gonorrhea from my girlfriend. She came home from cheating on me on camp. And to this day, my absolute favorite line, one of my favorite lines ever, I was looking through the script going, I have to make an impact. Got to make an impact. I'd seen somewhere where someone says, pick one line out of the script and make sure you make an impact. Take that line and make sure that no one ever forgets it. I'm looking through the script, I'm like, that's the one. And I circled it. So if you see it, you can see it on YouTube after the show. You can see my one line is this, right? I'm going to redo it for you. She looks at me and she goes, you mean you already knew that I had VD? And I turned to her and I went, yeah. I was pretty surprised when Dr. Aranowitz gave me the news.
Oh, yes, come on.
Ah, Dr. Aranowitz, who could forget her? Giving me the penicillin prescription on
Yes,
ABC
wow.
After School Special.
So it was the beginning of the movie that you were like, hey, it's kind of...
What's this burning sensation? Is it heartache or VD? Yeah, so it was kind of like that. It was great, though. It was super fun shooting that. And, you know, I just couldn't even believe I was in front of a camera or anything like that. And then eventually I just started booking more stuff. I got to play the late, great Roy Scheider's son in a TV movie called Prisoner Without a Name, Cell Without a Number.
Nice.
And that was very memorable for a prison scene we did where the director came up to me. This is another one of my favorite stories. People always seem to just really like the stories at these kind of Q&As, so I'm just going to tell you a quick one. This is a really good one about Roy Scheider. So Roy Scheider was played my dad, and my mom was played by the great Norwegian actress Liv Ullmann, who was in a lot of Ingmar Bergman movies and big during the 70s and has maybe the most beautiful blue eyes you'll ever see in your lifetime. And we were doing a scene where he's, this is a super short version, he's a political prisoner. He hasn't seen his family in 6 months. He's been tortured relentlessly, and it is drama. Obviously, it's not a comedy. And he's hasn't seen his family in 6 months, and he's, you know, as soon as he can't believe that he's actually being allowed to see us, and is emotionally overwhelmed, and gets up and gives us all a huge, you know, gets up, is all beaten up and everything, and he struggles to like come in and embrace his family. So the director, Linda Yellen, comes over to me and she goes, so here's the thing, Roy has been doing preparation in his trailer for a long time. And so we only want to rehearse the blocking. We don't want to rehearse any of the emotional things. So no acting allowed for the rehearsal. We're only going to do the acting on the take. And we were like, okay, we'd actually sort of heard that kind of thing before. So we do the thing with saying, we're going to come here, Zach will stand here, Roy will come up and embrace Zach, and then he will kiss Liv, and then he will kiss him, and then and everyone has their marks, and we have our little pieces of tape, just like I do here. This is my mark, and everything like that. So we get ready to go, and it's like, rolling, speed, everyone quiet on the set. Things are ringing, everyone, shh, quiet, or shut up, you'll get rid of you. Everyone's screaming like that. And Roy is like, you know, behind the bars. We have a prison set like that, and we have to open. The guard comes and slides the door open, and he staggers to his feet and everything like that. And they're like, action! So he gets up, and he's like, got tears are coming down his eyes, and he comes out. And the first thing that he's supposed to do is like, come and see me, and then leave. And he comes and he sees me. And I mean, this is a beautiful moment because I'm supposed to be his son. You know, it's a real imaginative thing. I'm supposed to see his son. He hasn't seen me in six months. So remember, we haven't rehearsed this except for the blocking. He comes up to me and he's like, my son. And he takes my face in his hands, and I'm watching him. Remember, I'm 18 years old, and I realize he's going to kiss me. Because I'm his son, and he's a dad. And so he's going like this, come here, my son. And I'm like, all I can think of, I see his lips coming towards me. I'm like, I'm about to be kissed by the dude from Jaws.
Yeah. Nice.
And unfortunately, I cannot find a copy of the movie because it's like 42 years old. It's an NBC TV movie. But they only did that one take. So you can see in the movie, he kisses me, and I'm like, you know, just kind of shocked and surprised by it. But yeah, so every time I see Roy Scheider in something, I'm like, yeah, kissed him.
Yeah, there you go.
Made out
Been
with
there.
the guy from the French Connection.
Literally.
A little scruffy, too, I would say. A little scruffy.
Well, he
Yeah.
tortured, so.
So then, obviously, just to wrap it up, I mean, you know, and then came Gremlins, and well, Nothing Lasts Forever, which was the movie I thought was going to be my big break, and which was
Didn't
like
it get buried for a while, or?
So Nothing Lasts Forever is a movie that's produced by Lorne Michaels, who's still at Saturday Night Live, and was going to star Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and the late, great John Belushi. Mm-hmm. John Belushi died on March 6th, I think, of 1982.
Sounds right.
And I thought the movie was going to get shut down, but it didn't. Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray stayed in it, and they replaced Belushi with another very different actor, a British stage actor named Paul Rogers. They just decided, like, we got to go in a completely different direction because it would be too weird to, like. So I did that movie before Gremlins, and it was super fun, but there was definitely a Paul I mean, everybody was in crazy shock
Yeah.
over losing Belushi. But I'd never met John Belushi. And so for me, I'm 18 years old, and I'm starring in this movie, which you can see, in fact, on YouTube in a really, really bad copy right now. Very strange kind of art film. I don't know who greenlit it, how it got greenlit. I was just happy I did it. But all I cared about was I got to spend about 8 days with Bill Murray and 1 day with Dan Aykroyd. And the crazy thing about it is I just went back for the first time probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, because when you're so young, you don't process things correctly. It just happens to you. I was like, I wonder how old Aykroyd and Murray were when I worked with them. And I went back and I calculated it. I worked with Aykroyd when he was 29.
Wow.
He seemed like he was 50. He's always had this older quality about him, even when he was like, do you realize, if you do the math, you go back, when he's doing Bassomatic on Saturday Night Live, have you ever seen that one? Like, Bassomatic, it talks about, when he's playing all those characters, he's 23 years old.
Yeah.
He seems like he's easily 10 years older than that. He always kind of had that thing. So I got to hang out with him, and then I got to hang out with Bill Murray, which is like, it would take another hour to talk about hanging out with Bill Murray.
So I get one question with that. So legendarily, though, they go off script constantly. Were they joking and doing things and et cetera when you were working with them, or was because the movie was...
On this particular movie, because they had a lot of respect for the writer, who's a guy named Tom Schiller, who did these things called Schiller's Reel, which were like these very quirky black and white movies from 1975, 1980. There's a famous one where, very ironically, John Belushi talks about how he's the last person to survive this SS not ready for prime time players, and dances on his own grave, which is like some very weird foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So he did all of these things, and they had mad respect for him. He'd already won a couple of Emmys for writing.
Okay.
And so they were basically following his script, because he's directing them. So it's like changing the script in front of the guy who wrote it. If it's your friend, is like kind of a no, unless Tom says go ahead.
Yeah, understood.
So, so there was that whole Bill Murray thing, and then of course what's crazy is I get Gremlins, and while I was doing Gremlins, I was getting my degree at Columbia University in Manhattan, my hometown, and I was on my way to history class one day, and I see all of these trailers like they're making a movie. And I look over, and in the center of the quad, there's this hearse, and it has a ghost with a red circle around it and a slash in it.
Yeah.
And I go, wow, this is weird, And I see these guys dressed in these suits and leaning against the car. And I go, are they shooting a movie here? And they're like, yeah. And I go, what's it called? And they go, it's called Ghostbusters. I go, oh, okay. Don't know anything about it, right? Because they're shooting it. When they're shooting a movie, you don't know anything about it. Unless it's like Batman 6 or something, and then you can figure it out. But Ghostbusters, I don't know. And I go, who's in it? They go, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. I go, oh, shit, I just worked with those guys. So there's like in Manhattan, they always, when they shoot movies, they have these like blue police do not cross barriers, right? Yeah. So I walk up to the do not cross barrier, and I look, and leaning against the car in full costumes, understandably, are Aykroyd and Murray. So all the kids from from the school are clustered around, and you would think they would be saying stuff. They're so in awe and so intimidated. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd. Oh my God, SNL people. Like, everyone's just quiet. No one's saying a peep. But I just worked with them, so I'm like this. Hey, Bill. Hey, Danny. Hey, Billy. Danny. Over here. Over here. And finally, I was pretty insistent, I was like, guys, over here. Nothing lasts forever. Over here. Finally, Murray turns around, and it's so crazy that I can even see this. He has his Ghostbusters gun in his hand, right? He turns around, and he looks at me, he's like just squinting. He's like, what the? It's the kid. I go, yeah. And so I go under the thing like this, and the cops are like, I'm sorry, young man, you can't do that. This might be the greatest moment of my life. You ready? Right. Murray goes like this, officer, it's okay. He's with us. And I go over and I'm sitting on the hearse and I'm chatting with them in their Ghostbusters uniforms. And I look over and everyone behind the sawhorse, you know, behind the Do Not Cross is going like this. What the How is he hanging out with the SNL guys? How is that possible?
Nice.
But yeah, really, you know, and Aykroyd, who is like maybe the nicest human being ever created, like the super nicest guy, super Canadian, incredibly kind. First time I ever met him, he was changing his shoes. I don't know why I caught him at this moment. He was getting in and out of a costume, and so he's taking one pair of shoes off and the other. And I walked in, and Tom Schiller was like, "Go in, and there's Danny's in there. Go in and say hi and introduce yourself." So I was like, "Oh my God, my heart's pounding, you know, a mile a minute." And I walked in there, and I go, "Mr. Aykroyd, hi, I'm Zach Galligan. I'm going to be playing Adam Beckett in the movie." And he had his shoe off, and he goes, "Hi, Zach, how are you? I should probably let you know that I am, in fact, a Canadian mutant." And he held up his foot, and he had webbed toes. Do you know he has webbed toes? He goes, "I do, in fact, have both webbed toes and fingers." And he put his fingers across, and he has slight webbing in his fingers. He goes, "So I just want you to know that you are, in fact, working with a mutant." And that kind of broke the ice, and I was like, this guy is the greatest freaking guy I ever met. You have no idea. When you're 18 years old, what it's like. They say never meet your heroes, and then you meet them, and they're saying nice things to you like that. It's just, you just cannot imagine. It's just, your mind is beyond blown. And we haven't even gotten to Gremlins yet.
And just as funny as on TV.
Just as funny as what?
Well, they're just as funny. You know, they're having fun.
They
with
can
you.
turn it. They can definitely turn it on and off.
Yeah.
You know, when they just want to sit there and have lunch, they can be the normal person.
Yeah.
But if they want to snap right in there, they
All
can
right.
do it. Murray especially. Although with Murray, it was like you had good Bill days, and then you had not so good Bill days.
Mm-hmm.
When Bill was not feeling it, you wanted to You just kind of kept your distance. But when he was in full Bill mode,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was off and running.
All right.
It was off and running with him.
So yes, we didn't get to Gremlins, but we'll say we're there now. So
Okay.
my first question now, because we live in a world of CG, how is all the animatronics, the puppets, etc. How is it to work with? I have to imagine grown men laying down in front of you, and you're, you know, playing to a basket or the target, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You had about a dozen people in front of you with joysticks, and the joysticks would go up my pant leg and go up my body. It was taped to my body,
So
and then it
weird.
would come out through my sleeve and would be attached, quite honestly, to Gizmo's butt. All came out of his butt.
Okay.
And the crew member would all be huddled around a monitor, and they'd all be watching it on the monitor, and they had divvied up everyone's kind of like tasks of what they had to do. So one person you'd be operating the ears, and you'd be operating the eyes, you'd be on nose today, and you'd be on mouth today, and you'd be on paws, and this and that. And so like multiple marionettes, they would have to synchronize all of their movements to make it, and they practiced for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, Chris Wallace came up to me the first time that we were running through it, and he goes, "So here's the deal." He goes, "This is supposed to be your pet, and it's supposed to be real. And so we want you to have the freedom to just do whatever you would want to do with an actual pet. So if you want to scratch his head, scratch his head. You want to, if you see a piece of fluff by his ear, take the piece of fluff off by his ear. Whatever you do, we've been training for this for weeks, we'll react. We just want you to act like it's a real thing, because you're going to help sell the reality of it if you treat it like it's a real thing." So I said, great. So the first few times we did some practice things, it was wild, because I would just come in and just without telling them, I would see, oh, well, let me just scratch the top of his head and see what they do. And it was kind of like a little Pillsbury Doughboy kind of thing going on. And you scratch it, and it goes like that. And it would do all this cute stuff. Now, of course, he didn't speak at all. Howie Mandel had to come in months afterwards. Never met the man until last year.
Okay.
Because we were always on separate days and stuff like that. So there was no vocalizations coming from him. There's just a lot of clicks and whirring. So it would be like, I'd be like, hey, Giz, and Gizmo would be like, so he made all of that kind of mechanical sounds. But that's okay. That was kind of like purring in a way. It was almost like a cat purring. So the key thing to do really was just, you're 19, you just play pretend. I'm just going to pretend this is my pet. I'm not even going to think about it not being my pet. It's just going to be my pet. And I'm just going to try and relate to it the same way I'd relate to any actual live animal, right? If you had a bird or a parakeet or a cat or a dog or whatever, you just relate to it like you would relate to a normal animal. And, as the years went on and we did Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2 and the Mountain Dew commercial we did in 2021, it's a weird thing started to happen, which is that, the first Gremlins I shot for 4 months, second Gremlins shot for 5 months. So now I've spent 9 months with this animal. Now you go, I'm not so crazy that I see it when I'm not holding it, it's sitting there like this. It's not a real thing. But when you are interacting with it, it starts to have a definitive personality. So you are, whether you like it or not, you are reacting and bonding and connecting with something that seems to be alive. So you are having feelings that's just like you're bonding with something that feels like it's alive. So when I finished doing Gremlins 1, came back to do Gremlins 2, and Rick Baker had joined the fold and taken over for Chris Wallace, and Gizmo was all up in kind of new improved version. When I saw him, I was like, hey, buddy. It was like a real thing that I had missed.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then when I did the Mountain Dew commercial, that was freakish because now it's been 31 years of technological development, and the Gizmo is incredible. It's like the difference between a horse and buggy and like a Tesla.
Yeah.
And it does everything perfectly, and if you do see wires, you can CG them out, so it doesn't matter whether anyone sees the wires or any of the cables or anything like that. And I remember turning to it, and the operators were there, and I was like, hey, buddy, what's up? And he turned to me, he was like, doing little things like that and making cute sounds. And I started to get emotional. And I went back to my trailer. I'm like, why am I getting emotional? And it wasn't until I was writing the book that I came up with this metaphor. Imagine this. Imagine if your favorite pet passed away 30 years ago, but then you got to spend a few days with him like every 10 years.
Nice.
It's like the thing's back and it's right there, and you have emotions and connections to it, and you get all messed up about it because it's like, this is my buddy from 30 years ago. It's right back there like it always was, even better, doing stuff and connecting with you and looking at you and everything. And I was like, wow, I must really love animals a lot because I'm getting messed up.
Well, nice. Well, we'll bring it around as a close. So.
Wait, people questions. You're hogging all the questions, buddy.
Hogging all the questions. I got the wave away for the time.
Boo! Boo!
So
the wave.
How did we come?
Oh, Zach. We'll do one audience question.
But I'll start.
One audience
How did it come
question.
to the animated series in 2023?
One question.
Animated series, they just said, hey, do you want to do something in it? And I was like, there's no Billy, right? So how am I going to do it? And they said, just do whatever you want. So I decided to do sort of like a mafioso, gangstery type thing.
Nice.
Just because it was like, yeah, fun thing to do, for the cartoon. Why not? It's always fun to do exaggerated cartoon voices.
Yes. All right, the one question.
Yes, sir.
Here
Here's the one question. Make it a good one, sir.
Hi, my name is Omar.
Hi.
1984, I remember I begged my grandparents to see the movie. At that time, we was living in the Bronx in Castle Hill, and we just had to walk under a bridge and go see the movie at Whitestone Cinemas.
Sure.
I'll never, ever forget that moment. I wanted to know, certain movies I feel like should not be ever remade. Do you feel like Gremlins at any time could or should be remade?
I don't think it will. And I think the real reason, I would say, I'll go so far as to say, I know it won't be remade because Chris Columbus owns a chunk of the rights. I don't know what proportion, but he owns a chunk of them. He says as long as he's alive, he'll never allow it. He has to sign off and say yes.
Yeah.
So he won't allow it to happen. So not only will he not allow it to happen, but the question that I didn't get, which is probably the second question I would get, and I'll just answer it for you, the Gremlins 3, written by Chris Columbus, is now actively in development, and Mr. Columbus is hard at work trying to make a worthy sequel. He just did an interview. You can look it up. Just do Chris Columbus interview, and it'll pop up in Google. But he said he feels that the weight of nostalgia and the weight of the expectations for Gremlins 3 is so massive that he's on record saying this, that he just feels like it's got to be perfect.
Well, yeah.
The script has to be perfect. It can't just be something we toss out and and have it just be like, oh, Gremlins 3, sure, here you go, here's something for you guys, chew on this. He doesn't want that. He wants it to be like a very worthy member of what would now be the trilogy, and he wants it to be great. And so he and Steven are working on it, and as Warner Brothers told me to say, the Warner Brothers says, or Spielberg Company says, when anyone asks you about Gremlins 3, just say the following sentence: it is actively under development at Warner Brothers.
Yeah, nice. So they found a good hook. Obviously, we can't talk about it. They found a good hook to come back.
I don't know. I mean,
You don't even, okay.
I think there are really, quite honestly, there's some only limited hooks on how to come back. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to bring my character back, he can't mess up the rules a third time. Somebody else who doesn't know anything about Gizmo, someone has to find Gizmo and not know anything about the creature so that they break the rules unintentionally, right? Because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing that makes sense. So I think my guess is just using logic. There's some iteration of that has to happen. Or I suppose someone else said, well, you had a daughter in the Mountain Dew commercial. Your daughter could mess it up. But I was like, really? You think I wouldn't have taught my daughter endlessly how to handle a gizmo if you could burn down an entire city?
Yeah. But
I know it. Hey, Dad, I'm sorry I got it wet and San Francisco's gone, but, I did the best I could.
But then, I mean, is the Mountain Dew commercial canon? That's the other question.
I would think probably not.
Not.
Although it does have myself, Harry Mandel, and was produced by Spielberg. Most people don't know.
By Amblin.
Steven was involved in it, but it was an Amblin commercial.
All right. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much again for coming back. Thank you for the stories. Great stories at the table as well. So we're going to head back and come back and get some honors.
I will be here until 4:30 precisely, in which case I will be en route to Hartford Airport, heading back to my fabulous place in the suburbs of Atlanta.
All right. All right. And keep an eye out for the book. Do we have a...
We do not have
ETA?
anything remotely resembling a release date, but I can tell you that Joe Dante has written a very short, sweet, incredibly well-written, and poignant foreword for the book to open it. So I know he's sad he couldn't be here. He was supposed to be here this weekend, along with Mr. Picardo, who is my fabulous co-actor in Gremlins 2, and it's unforgettable in that movie, but maybe the next time we come to the great state of Connecticut. So thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
All right, hey, don't nobody get up. We are going right into the next panel because we
Bye,
want to say...
Hartford. Bye, Hartford.
Let's give it up for Zach.